Hello YouTube, I am Peter, and today I'd like to talk to you about how to implement ghost replays in your game. So, what are ghost replays, you may ask? Well, let's say you're playing a game like usually a racing game, and you race along the track, you have a good run, and you decide to save your replay. And then on future runs you can race, and then you can actually race against yourself with your previous self showing up as a ghost that you're racing against. So that's what ghost replays are, and that's what we'll be adding today. So before we get started, I'd like to talk about a couple of goals I had while making this tutorial, and also give you an idea of some prerequisites so that you know what to expect. So my first goal when designing this is to make this implementable in any project. So I'm going to be starting with a base game. However, you should be able to follow this tutorial and implement it in your game regardless of what your game is like. That's my first goal, to make it generalizable to any sort of game. My second goal is to make sure we don't have to remake any objects. So in this tutorial, if you're in our case, we're going to be recording replays of the player. So we're not going to have a player object and a replay player object, because that's kind of inefficient, because the replay player object will be almost exactly the same as the player, except with the added replay stuff to it. So none of that. We're going to be able to implement this replay using all the same objects and reusing their functionality. That's my second goal. My third goal is to record it as efficiently as possible. So when I first kind of would watch games that would have this feature, I would be curious about how they would record all the movements, because there's a lot of ways you can do it. You could, in theory, re-record the model at each individual position and orientation, and at 60 frames per second you would have, those would add up fast, all those models that you were recording. And of course you could limit it to the position orientation. But the way we're doing is we're going to record the user inputs, and just based off the user inputs we're going to recreate the movements in the replay. So that's kind of the most efficient way I've found to do it, and this way you can also, it'll also be robust towards any new additions you make. So if you decide to recode your objects in some way, since we're doing it based off the user inputs, the replay will adapt based off your new addition. So efficient recording. We're only going to record the user inputs. Okay? And last but not least, some prerequisites. So this is going to be some fairly advanced GML stuff. I'd say, yeah, fairly advanced. We're going to be using data structures, a lot of loops. We're going to be using we're going to be writing and reading from files. For as far as what you should know, I'd like you to be fairly comfortable with GML. Be comfortable with loops and that sort of stuff. That would be helpful. And other than that, I think that's it. So without any further ado, let's crack on to the tutorial. Alright then. Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be a fairly long tutorial, and generally when I make fairly long tutorials, I like to make a list of things I'm going to accomplish. That way, if you stop watching at some point, you can come back and see where you left off. And I'll put links in the description to the individual sections. May even put annotations if I remember, but I'll guarantee there'll be links in the description if you want to quickly navigate between these points. Alright, so for this one I devised 6 different points that are going to be key, and we're going to cover all of them. First one being, we're going to isolate the inputs. Second one, we're going to record the input. Third one, we're going to save the recorded input. Fourth one, we're going to get the recorded input back so we can replay, And then 5, we're going to actually replay from the recorded input. And last, 6, we're going to write some wrapper code. Some things to implement this, and also some miscellaneous things to finish it off. And that'll be all part of my number 6 wrapper code section. I guess miscellaneous. Alright. So, as I said, for one of my goals in the design of this, I want this to be implementable in any project. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to make some folders within my scripts and objects. So in my scripts, I'm going to create a group called old scripts, and we're going to throw all the old stuff from my starting project in there. And also, by the way, if you wish to start from this starting project and not your own, there will of course be a link in the description to that. So go and take a look in the description if you want to start from the project that I'm working on. Alright, so then in the objects, I'm going to create a similar folder called old objects, and I'm going to throw it all in there. Now, throughout the tutorial, we're going to mess with the stuff in these folders as little as possible. We're going to need to do a sum, but we're going to try and minimize that because, as I say, I don't want this to be very project dependent. So, cool. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So the first step I said is isolate inputs. So I'm going to create a group in our scripts. I'm going to call it record/replay. And then in here I'm going to create a script called init revars. So I'm going to call it init revars. So, variables related to our record/replay system. Alright, so I want to take each of my all the inputs related to the thing I want to record, and I want to store them in variables. So I'm going to go into my scripts that I already have in the game, and I'm going to look for all of my, in my case I only did keyboard commands, but if you use mouse as well, you're going to want to record those as well. So I'm going to look for all of my keyboard commands. So for instance, here's one, keyboard check right. Instead of doing keyboard check right, I'm going to use a variable called keyboard check right. So that's going to be a variable, and I'm going to replace that with this guy. And then in my init revars, as I make these variables in here, I'm going to initialize them in here. So keyboard check right. And so it's pretty simple. You're just going to look for all of your keyboard commands and do that. And in case you have a lot of them, I'm going to show you a quick little trick. If you press Control-Shift-F, you'll get this little window, and you can search through all of your objects and scripts for certain phrases. So in my case, I want to search through all of them for keyboard, and that will give me a nice, neat list showing me all the areas where I use the term keyboard. So I can just double-click any of them, and I can jump into them and go ahead and do my variable replacement. I'd also like to mention that one of them is this script with the keyboard enter. In my game, pressing enter restarts the game. And this isn't really something you want to record. You don't want the replays to restart the game for you. So this would be an example of a input which I do not want to record. I only want to record things related to my movement in this case. So I'm going to skip over that one. But the rest of them, like this one right here, I'm going to replace with variables. Keyboard check left. And then I'm going to, for each one, I'm going to make the variable in here. I'm going to set them equal to false to start with. Alright, so I'll leave you to it. Go ahead and do that for all the inputs you want to record. Alright, so now in the creation event of the player, which is in this case the object I want to be recording, I'm going to initialize those variables. So I'm going to call the function init revars. Okay, so now we're going to test it out real quick. And we should have lost complete control. So since we set all of our inputs to false, we should never be able to move at all. Okay, there's an issue, keyboard check. Okay, well, let me show you what's happening. It does not know what this variable is. Keyboard check pressed up. Well, it should have been initialized in my init revars. Did I make a typo? Okay, I didn't. Whoops, do as I say, not as I do. I forgot to update all my variables in here. I'm going to do that real quick. Keyboard check pressed up false. Keyboard check space equals false. Alright, okay, cool. Alright, now that that's done, now let's see if it works. Alright, so in my game, I can press as much buttons as I want, and it's not going to do anything, which is good. If you're playing your game and you find that it's responding to some of your input, you missed one of your input things. So go back and check that. Okay, so now to restore functionality to make it still work, we're going to create a script. And we're going to call it get inputs. And the script, by the way, is going to be called in the step event of the object which you're recording. So my player in the step event, before the very first thing we do, before we do anything else, I'm going to call get inputs. Alright, so in the get inputs we're going to configure all of our input variables, our keyboard variables in this case, based on what we want. So in the future we're going to configure them based off of replay input possibly, but for now we're going to make them just equal to what they would have been. So for instance, keyboard check left is going to be equal to whatever our keyboard check left function would have been. VK left, yeah. So we're just going to go through all of ours and do it. So I'm going to pull up my init revars for reference over here. So I'm just going to go through all these and type it out. And there we go. Now, it should work as it did originally, with just responding to our keys as they were designed to respond. So, if I press up, it moves up. If I press to my sides, it moves to the sides. And if I grab something and hit spacebar, it does the zooming thing. Just occurred to me, I haven't shown you my game, so standard platformer controls. I can press spacebar to dash if I have received any of these orbs, and then if I reach the end, it'll tell me how much time it took me, and I can enter, try again. So, there we have it. That's my game. So, we've just finished step 1. We have isolated the inputs. It may seem like we didn't do that much, but the main thing we did is, we have isolated our inputs into these 4 variables. So, we can, right now we're just making it based off of the inputs, so we can very easily adapt this so that's not just based off of the actual keyboard inputs. And also, the effect of isolating these means that we should never have to go into these old scripts or / old objects again. In theory, don't hold me to that, but I believe we've done the majority of our project-specific work. Alright, so the next thing, number 2, is we're going to record the inputs. So to do this, I'm going to need to set up some more variables. So these variables are all, input variables. And now we're going to have a series of variables related to record / replay. First of which is going to be called restep. This is going to represent which step we're on. So whenever we press a button, if I press the left button, I want to add a timestamp to it, say how far into the game did I press that. So if we press it 5 steps into the game, I'll be referencing this variable. This variable will have that 5 steps stored, so we're going to increase this by 1. We're going to increment it every step so this will represent which step of the game we're on. Alright? Next we're going to create what we call a Boolean variable, a true-false variable. Recording, we're going to set equal to true because we're going to be recording. And now I want to make a recording data structure. So data structures are expensive. They take up a lot of memory. So we only want to make them if we need them. So in this case, we only want to make a recording data structure if we're recording. So I'm going to create an if statement right here, say if we're recording. And by the way, you'll be seeing this a lot. I think I've already done it some, but sometimes I'll make an if statement and I'll just put only a variable in there. So if you're not used to seeing this is identical to writing it like that. So yeah, so whenever you see it the way I have it, just think of it like this. I have a whole tutorial about if statements and tricks like that. It's called Quick Tips If Statements, I believe. So you can check that out if you'd like. Link in the description. Alright, so we're going to create our data structure, and I'm going to call this data structure recorded moves, and we're going to set equal to a data structure called ds_list. So we're going to create a ds_list. If you don't know what a list is basically an array. There's some, I guess, academic technical differences. Arrays are statically sized. You can't resize them, and you can't easily insert things into arrays. For lists you can insert things, and you can dynamically resize them. However, there's some cost in looking things up, and lookups. Anyway, that's far more than you wanted to know. I'm using lists, and you can think of it very much like an array. Alright, and let's see what's next. Okay, so in our get inputs, if we are in fact recording, then we would like to, in addition to telling the game what our input variable is, we want to also record that variable. So we're going to, if we're recording, we'd like to call a function called record step. And we're going to go ahead and create that in here, and I'm going to call it record step. And additionally, over here I'm going to create a group called record. So all of our recording specific functions will go in here. So there you go, record step. So the way this is going to work is we're going to go through all of our input variables. So again, I'll pull up reference over here. So if we're pressing the right button, if keyboard check right, so if keyboard check right, then we want to record that. So we're going to do a couple of things. First off, we're going to create a word to represent our action along with the time where it happened. So I'm going to call it var move. Var means that this variable only exists within this script. It's more memory efficient. It's called scope if you want to read more up into that, but it doesn't make a big difference. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to say when it happened, which by the way, restep is the step where this happened at, and then we're going to need to add on a string, and I'm going to say what happened, and that's keyboard check right. And additionally, I'm going to go and do this real quick. GameMaker has this weird thing where you can't just add a number to a word. It's like asking it to add an apple and an orange. So I need to convert this to a string first. Alright, so that's our action in the form of a string. Now I'm going to add this to our data structure. So I'm going to say ds_list add, and I'm going to tell it two things: which list I want to add to, and what do I want to add to it. So the list I want to add to is recorded moves, and I would like to add this move to it. And also additionally, for debug purposes, just to make sure we're doing it right, I'm going to go ahead and print out the thing that we're adding. So I'm going to do show debug message, and I'm going to print out the move. Alright, so this is going to be very repetitive. I'm going to go with this exact same code for each of our 4 variables. Alright, so if you don't like repetitive code, I have a tutorial called Qt Loopeyes, Quick Tips Loopeyes. So you can loopeyes this to do all this in a loop rather than doing the same statement over and over again. I'm going to just do it over and over again kind of inefficiently, so to make sure that it's easy to understand, but you can watch Qt Loopeyes if you would like to write slightly better code. Alright, so I'm going to just modify these slightly for each of our individual variations. So keyboard check. Press up. Press up. Keyboard check. Space. And then last but not least, we need to wait to update this restep. It's not going to represent our current step unless we're increasing it every step. So I'm going to add a little line of code here, restep ++. So this record step will be, if we're recording, this will be called every step. So if we increase the step by 1 each time, that restep will in effect represent the current step that we're on. Alright, so now we're going to play it, and as we play it, we should get our recording showing up down here, which your show debug message shows up in the debug window. Alright, so I press up, you see how it shows it there. And additionally, it shows it the time step. So 84 means that we pressed it 84 steps into the game. There are 30 steps in a second, so it basically means we pressed up after a little over 2 seconds, close to 3 seconds. Alright, so up works, and let's do some more. You can see that it records everything. One thing I like to point out is you'll notice that if I'm holding the left, this debug window is going crazy. It's adding all kinds of new things. Alright, so one of my goals for this tutorial that I mentioned in the beginning is that I want to be memory efficient. So if we're holding left and just constantly adding all these elements to our file, that's not memory efficient. There is a better way to do that. So to fix this, I will not record them if they are being held in this way. Instead, I will record the presses and releases, and from there, I can deduce whether or not it's being held in or not. So we're going to create some new variables. For any variable that only has a check, we're going to add 2 new variables. One for the pressed variation, and another for the released variation. Alright, so I'm going to go and add all those new variables, and I'll catch you in a second. Okay, so now that you added those, you got to make the corresponding if statements here in the record step. The difference here is that we're not going to be recording these just checks at all. So instead of recording a check, I'm going to do it recording a pressed, and then we're going to likewise have another recording showing the released. And we're going to do that for all of our variables that are being held in. And I actually made a slight error here. You see this is recording the space. I didn't actually change the variable up here in the if statement. Alright, let me walk through all of mine real quick. So I have two writes, pressed, pressed, released, released. I have two lefts, pressed, pressed, released, released. Okay. I have just one for pressing up because I don't actually have it held in up, so I don't need both of them. For space, I have two spaces, pressed, pressed, released, released. Okay, that all seems to be working. Now when we play our game, it doesn't work because I made a typo somewhere. Keyboard check released left. Okay, that looks like it's spelled right, which tells me that I didn't initialize it correctly. Release left. Okay, released left. Alright, that should fix that. Oh, and again, and again, and again. Keyboard check released space. Alright, that looks good, which means I must have done the initialization incorrectly. And again, I forgot to say which key. Space. Port. Try again. Alright, now it's playing, and as we move, you'll notice that it records things much less. So much less, in fact, that doesn't even record our left or right at all. Wow, look at how efficient that is. That's a problem, that's a problem, that is a problem. You know what, I know what it is. Over here, in our get inputs, we need to update these as well. So, I have a check left right here, and additionally I also want to have a check pressed left. So I need to update those variables so that they can get recorded. Alright, and I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, alright. Now let's test that out. Alright, so if I hold and write, you see I get two. One for press, one for release. Same with left, press, release. And then, as you'll see in a second, same for space. Press, release, press, release. Alright. So you see that even when we're holding it for a long time, it does not consume a lot of space. So that's much, much better. Okay. That is all for step 2. We are now recording our moves. So, moving right along. Okay, I'm about like 25 minutes into recording this tutorial, and I just realized that I am not using my super nice microphone that I have right here. I've been recording from my laptop speaker this whole time. So if you just notice a boost in audio quality, that's why. Alright, let's see. To finish off step 3, we're going to quickly remove all of these debug things, so we don't want that clogging up our debug window the whole time, especially now that we know that they work. Alright, so now we're moving on to step 3. Step 3, we're going to save our recorded input, because after all, having all this input in data structure is all well and good, but if we can't, access it back on future playthroughs, it's not going to be of much use to us. So I'm going to write a new script, and I'm going to call it write record to file. Alright, so if we're going to start by opening the file. And by the way, let me give you some more background on how this is called. So we want to minimize the amount of times that we do I/O, input output, with files on the computer, because that's slow. That's really slow. So if we're doing that every step, that's going to be a huge performance issue. So that's the reason why we've been recording it to a data structure instead. It's more memory efficient. So our plan is to only write it to the computer once. And what we're going to do that is, how did I do that? So I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to go into the player, and I'm going to have it only record stuff when we get to the end of the room. And I'm going to pull the player out. I promised I wouldn't access things from the current game, but the player's the object that we're going to make replay. So it's kind of makes sense that we're going to need to access him. Alright, so I'm going to go and add another event in here. I'm going to go to room end. So whenever the room ends, we're going to go and record everything in our file structure. save everything, that is. So we're going to say write record to file. Alright, now over here, we're going to open up file, loop through our whole data structure, and we're going to write everything to it. Okay, so we're going to open the file. I'm going to say var file is equal to file text open, and there's a number of ways you can open it. If you click here, you can get a drop down menu. You can't see it because later my recording is set up, but there's a number of things we can do, and we're going to choose write because we want to write to the file to have it store our data. And the file name, let's do test.txt. That seems like a good name. We'll say ghost test. Let's make it more descriptive. Ghost test.txt. Alright, so now we're going to loop through structure. So I'm going to say for var I equals 0, I less than dslist size recorded moves I plus plus. Alright, so this is standard for loop. 3 sections. Start at I, keep going as long as I is less than this value, and then increase I at the end of each iteration. This is the size of a recorded move. So the value that this function returns will represent how many moves that we have recorded. So we're going to loop through every single one of our moves here. All right, and for each one, we're going to call the function file text write string. So we're going to write, our value to our word to the file, and this takes a number of arguments. First off, which file? The file. And then which string? We're going to grab the corresponding string from our list. So we're going to do that using the function dslist find value. And the list we're looking through is recorded moves. And then which position of the list are we looking at? We're looking at the ith position because that's the position we're looping at right now. Okay. And then next we're going to do file text write ln file. So I made this tutorial a while ago, and I had a big issue trying to record things and read from it, and I decided to do it this way. So I guess bear with me. I might tell you later if it comes back to me. So this will write the line, but then if we were to call this again, it would write the same thing twice in the same line. So I'm adding this section to have it go to a second line, and that will make it easier to record later. Okay, so now we didn't close the file. So this is whatever language you're in, whenever you're working with input output, this is something you want to do. When you open it, and then when you're done using it, you close it, because if you open it and just keep it open, the file is open, waiting, and just waiting there and using up precious thinking power of your computer. Just waiting for you to try and access it. So we're going to close it, saying, hey, we don't need you anymore. And we're going to do that by doing file text close file. And also, we're going to delete a list. Delete list. So the idea behind this is these data structures take up a large amount of memory on your RAM. So when you're done with it, you want to get rid of it. So in this case, we've recorded it. We've put it in a more permanent location. We've stored it in a file. So now we want to get rid of our files. So that way we can make more of these data structures, and we won't kill our space. If we don't do this, let me do it first. So dslist destroy recorded moves. If you don't do this and you were to play the game over and over again and continuously restart it, it would just keep storing more of these data structures, and eventually you'll get what you call a what's the error called? I should know a technical term. I learned about this in school. A heap overflow or something like that, where your RAM will basically run out of memory, and it won't be a good time. All right, so let's play the game. Actually, okay, now we're good. And we're gonna play. We're gonna do some stuff. Alright. Looks like I missed a debug thing in my record step. Gonna take that out real quick. Alright, that's working. Alright, so I just did some things. We see some of it there, even though we weren't supposed to. So now it's stored in a file somewhere on your computer. It's kind of odd because it's not stored in the same directory as your project. So you're gonna have to, you can spend some time looking through your computer to find it. I'm gonna tell you where it's gonna be. It's gonna be a little bit odd. So you're gonna go into your C drive, your main drive. You're gonna go into users. You're gonna go into whoever you are. So I am Orange Peter. And we'll go in there. And then you're gonna go into your app data folder. For most of you, this is probably hidden. If you, by default, it's hidden. So if it's hidden, the way you're gonna access it is you're gonna click up here into your directory. You're gonna search app data. So go in there. And now, somewhere in here, there's a lot of cool stuff in here, by the way. As a fun fact, if you ever played Minecraft and tried to find out where it's installed, you're not going to find it anywhere. That's because Minecraft is stored right here in your hidden app data folder. So you're roaming. That's Minecraft. Okay, but for our purposes, I believe it's local. And we're going to look in the game. So my project is called Ghost Replays Tutorial. So I believe it's going to be in here. Replays Tutorial right there. And there's going to be a number of things in here, including this test.txt. Or actually, we call it ghost_test.txt. I did not see that. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Ghost Replays Tutorial. Did it not work? Huh. I'm going to go and delete all these guys. Alright, well that's the directory. It should show up in there if it works. Gonna hit stop. You know what? I bet you that's what I did. I didn't stop the game. It was still running. Room end hadn't been called yet. So go back into that folder. No, not there. Huh. Okay. Let me just play it one more time just to be sure. And player is indeed calling it at room end, right? Yeah, it's calling right to record file whenever we whenever room end happens. I'm going to throw a show debug message in here to see whether it's actually calling that. Room ended. Alright, let's play. Alright. Okay, so I move around, I press upright, and move around some more. Hit space. Okay. And I hit X, and room ended was called, which means that this should also have been called, which means it should have opened up Ghost Test, and then we should have looped through it. We should have written some stuff, and should have closed it. Huh. But there it is. That was weird. Okay, so you can see right here that is everything we did this time around. Cool. So it recorded all of our movements. Awesome. Okay, and I believe my viewers, this is the end of the third step. So we've made it halfway through the tutorial. Congratulations on making it this far. We are now able to gather the information from the player. And I just noticed my screen capture utility didn't want to see my face anymore. Okay. Anyway, so we finished the recording stuff. Now let's work on the replaying stuff. All right. So I'm going to create a group over here called replay, and I'm going to actually write some stuff. We're going to add stuff into the init revars. We're going to create another variable called replaying, where I actually set record equal to false and set replay equal to true, and then we're going to create a replaying data structure, and then if we're replaying, we would like to create this data structure. And unlike the recorded moves, with the recorded move we start with empty data structure. With replaying, we're going to be reading it from the file. So instead of actually initializing here, I'm going to do read replay from file, and we will initialize it in there. Alright, so in our replay folder, we're going to do read replay from file. Read replay from file. Alright, so to get started off, we're going to create that structure. Create structure. And we will make it, we'll do replay moves, and we're going to do equal ds map create. Okay. Map is a new data structure. You can kind of think of it like an array or a list, but the difference is that maps, I guess I could make a table out of this showing you the pros and cons, but maps are made of something called a hash map, which you can read up on if you like, and the benefit in there is it has very fast lookup times. It's not as easy to loop through it, even though you can game make it for some reason, but you can look things up really fast, and it can be resized dynamically. So since we're going to be every step looking up, hey, what are we doing on this step? We want a data structure which allows for fast lookups. All right. So now that we have that, we're going to set up our input output. So we're going to open the file. So we're going to set var file equals, and we're going to read from the same one we wrote to. So we wrote to ghost test.txt. And now we're going to loop through data. So each line, my screen capture thing is really weird. It just gave me an error saying that my webcam was unplugged, even though it's physically connected to my laptop. So I don't know what the deal is there. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so now we're going to loop through the data. Every line in this file is going to represent one entry into our map. So we're going to want to keep looping until we reach the end of the file. So the way we're going to do that, we're just going to do a while loop this time. And in there, we're going to say while not file text EOF file. And EOF stands for end of file. So while we're not at the end of the file, we're going to read in the next input. So I'm going to read in a number. If our num equals something, I'm going to read in a string. We'll call it str. Num represents, of course, the step when we did the action. Str represents the name of the action. So I'm going to read in the number by using file text read real. So we're going to real meaning we're reading in a number, and we're going to be reading in from file. And then the string is going to be file text read string, and that's going to be also reading from file. Okay, and now we've read a number, we've read a string, but now we haven't finished the line. So there's a weird thing we need to do. We need to finish off the line by doing file text read line, and that'll go ahead and consume the rest of the line. So that way, on the next iteration, we'll be beginning with a new, fresh line. Okay, so our line is going to be our num plus our string. Yeah. It probably seems weird that I am creating the line after specifically grabbing these two elements. Like, technically I could have done something like var line equals that instead of doing all of this stuff, but again, I had an issue, and this was the way I solved it, and I still think it kind of makes sense. Alright, so now we have our line, which is in the form that it was when we were recorded in, and it represents the step and what happened in that step. So we're going to go and add that to our map. So ds map add. The map we're going to be adding to is replay moves, and the value we're going to add to it is line, and we're going to give it a value of 1. Maps work a little bit differently from arrays. They have a key and a value. So arrays kind of have keys and values too. So if I have r1 equals 2, I'm setting the value of at 2 for key 1. So this is the key, and this is the value. One of the cool things about maps is that your key doesn't necessarily have to be a number. Unlike arrays, your key doesn't have to be number. So for our key, that whole string we're going to be using as the key. And the reason we do that is because you can look things up by their key really easily.
it's harder to look this up by their value. And since we want to be looking up real quickly, we're making the line the key. And then 1 is the value. I don't think it really matters with the way we're going to do this, but just make it 1 to be consistent with me, I guess. Alright, so now that loop will populate our entire map. And now we're going to close the file, for reasons I said earlier. So file, text, close. Okay. Oh, and I want to close this file. All right. And for debug purposes, as we find these, I'm going to show debug message line. Okay. So now, let me open up that file. So this is our file, right? Now when we play, it should print all that out just exactly as we put it in. It doesn't do that, and additionally it gives me this error. File not open for reading. Did I forget something crucial? Yes, I did. I pulled a derp, I guess. So if you remember, when we made our file in the writing, we used this function to give us the file so that we can use these nice little these nice other functions. However, here I just did it like that, which doesn't help us. So I want to put that in a constructor. So it's file text. We're actually reading, yeah. File text. Let me look at my options. Open. We're open right. Read. Open read. Okay, that's what we want to do. So that's how you want to do that, because we are reading from the file this time around. Alright, let's see if we get an error this time. Alright, so this was what it read from the file, right? And it appears to match up with what I have in here. Okay, the one issue that I was having while I was testing was it wouldn't get the last one, but now it is. Cool. 258 keyboard check release space is indeed the last one. Alright, and you guys didn't see it because it didn't pop on my screen, but I got an error when I closed it. So it's having trouble finding its recorded moves variable. Alright, so let's look into that. In our player, when we close the game, it does write to file. We can, by the way, get rid of this debug stuff. When we write to file, it references recorded moves. However, in the init revars, we only initialize recorded moves if we're recording. So, since we're not recording, we don't really want to do any of this stuff. So I'm going to put a big if statement over here. Actually, I'm going to use a little trick. If we're not recording, I'm going to do an exit. So, exit means we're going to stop with the script. So we're going to cut it short, break out of it. I have a tutorial about this, difference between exit, break, continue, and whatnot. So you know what, I'm gonna put a link to that in the description as well. I expect this to be a very good tutorial, so I'm going to milk as much self-advertising as I can out of it. Where were we? Okay, so that's that, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this debug thing as well. Okay, that is all for step 4. We have finished 66.6 repeating % of this video. Now the next step is to go into the replay from record. So in our get inputs, if we're recording, we want to get the input as usual and then go ahead and record what we did. However, this is only if we were playing, we want to do something different. If we're playing, we're going to go ahead and set these differently. And the way we set them is we call replay step. Okay? Alright? So if we're playing, we're going to replay the step. If we're not replaying, we're going to let the user decide what to do that step, and we're going to record that step. Make sense? Good. So in the replay folder, we're going to create a new script called replay step. The way this is going to work is we're going to see if our map, for this particular step, we're going to see if a map has the corresponding action. Okay, so this F step we're going to check if we're pressing the right button. All right. So we're going to search our map with the command that would correspond to this step. So what we're basically doing is we're going to do dsmap find value we're searching through replay moves, and the corresponding command for this particular step would be the restep, the number at this step, plus key check pressed right. Alright, so that's what it should be. If it has it, then we're good. If it doesn't, it'll be undefined. So I'm going to see if it's undefined. So if is undefined, and I'm going to actually say if not undefined. So the way this reads is search for that particular value for this operation. If it's not undefined, do the first thing, else do the second thing. Got it? All right. So if it is undefined, then we want to end up over here and keyboard check pressed right equals false. Got it. All right. So undefined, we are going to set our input for the step to false. If it's not undefined, if our map has an operation for the step, we're going to set keyboard check pressed right equal to true. All right. So that's a mouthful. I did this first for understanding, but there's a slightly more compact way to type this. So I can do the same thing by setting this equal to whatever's in this if statement. Okay. So I kind of prefer to look at it that way. So whether or not we press the keyboard at this step is going to be the same as whether or not it's undefined, or whether or not it's not undefined. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to comment this out, and we are going to go through this and do it for each individual keyboard thing, or at least we're going to do the presses and releases first, and then we can take care of the helds after that. All right. Again, if you want to watch my Qt loop eyes tutorial, my quick tips loop eyes, I'd recommend watching that because this can be really repetitive. So we're going to go through and do that for each of our keys. All right. Okay. So these are all of my presses and releases I have. Press right, release, press left, left, and it's press, release, press, release, and then I have press space, press release, and then I press up. Okay, those are all our presses and releases. Now we're going to do our helds, and the way we're going to do our helds is if we're currently pressing keyboard check right, or pressed right, I mean, that means that we are also holding it, right? Where if we press it down, we have just started to hold it, right? So we're going to set the holding equal to true as well. Keyboard check right equals true. All right. And then if we released it, we have just let go of it. We're no longer holding it, so we're going to set keyboard check right equal to false. Okay, so that's how we're going to go ahead and do that. So this is our held in. These are our press / release. All right. Okay. So that's how we do it with the right, and we're going to need to, of course, do this 3 more times for each of our other held in variations. So we're holding in left. We want to set left. Right, left. Space. Okay, that should be a space. Space. Okay. And then last but not least, we got update step. So, in order for our restep variable to represent which step we're on, we got to increase every step. Okay? Brilliant. Alright, this should be pretty exciting. I believe, if I am not mistaken, which I very well may be, if I'm not mistaken, it should replay that little thing we did. Alright, so fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed. Look. Oh, you're not seeing it. Okay. I saw him jump earlier. What's he gonna do now? Yeah, restart it. He's just jumped once. Whereas he should be... Okay, so he pressed up, he went up, then he should have went right. He's not catching that one. Alright. I messed up somewhere. Okay, so in replaying, we weren't able to find the right. Keyboard check, press right. Didn't seem to be able to find this. Oh, I said key. When you're reading it, okay, we just read it as it was written. Yeah, I see the issue. Okay, so here I saved them as keyboard, but when I was reading it, I was looking for key, whereas that should be keyboard. I think that's the issue. All enough up was the one that worked, which shouldn't really be the case. We might have to look into that some. So if up was the only one that worked, that means that I must have been saving it wrong. So when I record it, I must have done that one wrong. Keyboard check pressed up. That's very odd. Very odd indeed. Alright, well, let's try this again. Oh, he's doing this thing. That's very exciting. I don't remember how accurate that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my init revars and I'm going to set recording to true, and I'm going to set replay to false. So now we're going to do a very highly scripted set of moves, and we're going to see if it works. Alright, so at 3 seconds I'm going to start. I jump up, going right each time. I fail on that jump, move to the right, move to the left, hit space. Okay, that's my choreographed scene. Now if I load up that file, ghost test, it should look different. If I switch my revars from recording to replaying, it should replay from that file. Let's see if it represents what it should. Alright. At 3 seconds I start. Okay, I start. That's not quite right, is it? What am I doing wrong? I will find out. Oh. Keyboard check, keyboard check, keyboard check, keyboard check. What am I doing wrong? I thought I was being careful. Alright. Okay, let's do it even simpler. Alright, I'm going to record again. So init revars, I'm going to set recording to true, replay to false. Alright. At 3 seconds, jump in the air, move to the right. Alright. Okay, I closed that. Now, let's see if this updated. I jumped in the air, I moved to the right. Cool. Alright. Now I go to init revars. I set replaying to true and recording to false. And I play and see how closely it reenacts these variables. Okay. At 3 seconds, jump to the air, move to the right. Okay, it didn't catch my release, or it didn't catch my well, actually, it kept moving after I released it. See, this could be due to a number of things, but I'm gonna first check the most obvious one. In replay step, True, false, true, false, true, false. So keyboard check right should be set to false when this is parsed, which apparently it's not, because keyboard check really acid right. Is that representative of what it looks like here? This is what it is in the file. This is what I'm looking for. And there. Keyboard check really acid right. Okay, that seems to add up. Oh, that's my old one. Additionally, I'm expecting there to be a space, which makes sense. I am expecting there to be a space. Let's go ahead and I'm going to show debug messages every time we find one of these message. Like that. I'm going to skip the tedium, or actually, I'm going to say if we actually hit it, if keyboard check pressed right. Don't notice any difference. Well, there's clearly a typo I'm not seeing. Maybe I'm just going to try and redo it. So I'm copying the pressed right version. I'm changing all these to released. Released. Maybe it's a strange typo somewhere. One, two, three. Oh, okay. I did make a strange typo. I looked it over and over again, but I didn't see it, I guess. And he's doing what he should have been doing. That was weird. Okay, let's do a more rigorous test. Let's just go ahead and add some more here. Let's say these are lefts. And then we'll go through one more time and make them spaces. So that should test all of them. And these will be at 150 and 160. All right. So we'll see if it translates them accordingly. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is what it makes the player do. We can see right here 102, 114, 123, 130, 140, 150. All right. Awesome. Okay, so that wasn't as mind blowing as I had hoped, because it was so messed up. But it's working. We have pretty much finished step 5. Before I'm just gonna do one more test, and I'm going to set recording equal to true, and I'm going to record like a more complicated run through the whole thing. So we're going to record this, and we're going to see how it goes. Alright, so 3 seconds, I'll start. Alright, I'll grab this guy, I'll hit space to get across there, and then I'll go down this way, and then I'll hit space 3 more times, and there I am. Alright. As is, if I press enter, the game will restart, and I think it'll overwrite things. So I'm going to exit out right there. And now if I change it from recording to false, and I make it playing true, then I can press play, and it should play it exactly as I just did. So I think we started at around 3 seconds, and this should be entire run through. I don't think that's exactly how I did it. What's wrong? What's wrong? Okay, let me try running this again, see if I can figure out the issue. Alright, so I'm running through. I don't seem to ever hit space. It never seems to be acting when I hit space. Alright, so it's taking an input, so maybe it's not, must have messed up there somewhere. So in my replay step, am I making this okay? Keyboard check, press space, keyboard check space equals true, keyboard check release space, keyboard check space equals false. Okay, is keyboard check space indeed the variable that I'm checking? Or does that indeed match up? Keyboard check space, yes, that looks like it is indeed the one. And in my player update, is that indeed the thing that I am checking for? Where is it? Player update movement. Keyboard check. Where is it? Ooh, this might be the issue. This might very well be the issue. Apply movement, no. Update dash. Yes. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I messed up on step 1. That's why it's not working. I even added that extra step where I had you guys test it out with everything disabled, and of course space didn't work because I didn't have any orbs yet, but that's weird. And I had the Control Alt F. I am so sloppy. Alright, let's see how accurate he is this time. That looks much better. Awesome. All right. That is all for step 5. All right, everyone. Welcome to step 6, the final step in our program. Yeah, so we've done the core of the program. We did the hard part. Now I'm going to add some wrapper code to make it seem more fun. So, or to make it work better, I guess. So I'm going to set it up in such a way that we can, instead of just manually in our init revars, instead of manually setting our recording and replaying, I'm going to allow the user to give an argument. So if they give an argument, I'm going to have a switch case based on their argument. And if their argument is record, if they opt to record, then it is going to look like this. Recording will be set to true, replaying will be set to false. We'll do a break there because that's how switches work. And if they just opt for replay, then okay, recording will be equal to false, replaying will be equal to true. Alright. Break. Cool. Alright, that'll be useful. So now basically what we're going to do is we're going to create 2 players in our room. We're going to create, so there's that player and there's that player. This is going to be the real one. That one's going to be the ghost. So the real one, its creation code is going to look like, let me see, it's going to look like init, or sorry, it's going to be player init, and it's going to be init revars. Did I do it like that? Yes, it is. And it's going to take in, let's see, since it's the real one, we want to record, so I'm going to type in record as the argument. This guy, the creation code, is going to be a similar creation code, so player init, and then it's going to be init revars, and then as the argument for that we're going to put down replay. Ghost is going to replay. Okay. By the way, what I just did is I changed the creation code. So this will override whatever creation code is in there, and you can do that by right-click creation code, and it'll pull up that. Okay. So now we're going to drag them on top so they start at exactly the same place. Alright, next. So far they're always being saved to test.txt, or ghost test.txt, which is a problem. After all, what's the point of saving them if you can only have one of them? That's kind of sad, isn't it? So what we're going to do is when we write to it, we're going to add a little bit of logic here. So when we write to it, we're going to we're going to get the file name. So var, let's do it this way. Okay, so we're going to ask the user, hey, what's your name? So at the end we're going to ask them what's your name, and we're going to write to a file accordingly. So var user input is equal to get string, and we're going to ask them what's your name. Alright, so getString is a little nice convenience method, where convenience function, where when we we'll pop up a dialog box asking what's your name, and they'll tell us their name, and it'll store that in this variable right here. It's unhappy. Okay, the second argument is what the default is. We don't really care what the default is. Alright, and now we're going to generate a file name. So file name is going to be whatever the user told us, plus we're going to make it a .txt. Alright, and then we're going to be using the file name in here instead of that testing one we had. Cool. Alright, and then likewise when we are reading replay, we're going to also need to get user input from that. So get input var user input, it's going to be the same thing, get string, who would you like to race against? And likewise we need that empty string in there to set the default. And then the file name is going to be the user input plus a txt extension. And we'll use the file name here. Okay. So there's a lot of the wrapper code right there. Alright, so in my notes I have written hack to make player following work. And the person who wrote that, me, clearly did not take into account how much time would pass before I read that. So I don't remember what that means. So we'll see if we need to do any hacks or not. Alright, so let's see if this works. Alright, expects one argument, we're giving it 0. So this player creation event is, even though it's overridden by the broom, we need to give it something. So we'll give it record by default. So that should stop it from giving us an error. Alright, so here's my game. Who would I like to race against? Oh, I don't know. Nobody, I guess. File is not opened for reading. Read replay from file. Interesting. Okay, I remember there's another thing I did. So in this case, the file didn't exist. So we're gonna need to, before we do anything in here, once we have the file name, we got to do we gotta sanitize our input, as you would say. We need to make sure it's not something that'll break our code. So if our file name is an empty string, we don't want to do anything, because if they do that, then they're like me and they didn't really care. Another thing that can happen is if they gave us a file that didn't exist. They say, hey, I want to race against Johnny, and Johnny hasn't raced before, their file won't exist. So we also want to check if not file exists. File name. Alright. So if the name is an empty string or the file doesn't exist, that means that we have nobody to replay. So our purpose as a replay monster, replay ghost, is unfulfilled. We don't have any purpose in the world anymore. So therefore we'll die. Instance destroyed. And we'll go and exit to make sure that none of this stuff runs. So I'll X out of this script. Alright. Who do you want to race against? I don't care. Alright, so that guy destroyed himself, so we're just going to go ahead and waltz our way through here. Alright, 8 seconds, not bad. Let's enter the try again. What's your name? Oh, well, I am Aaron Peter, the one and only. Okay, so now it's restarting. Who would you like to race against? Let's race against Aaron Peter. Alright. there he goes. Arn Peter. Let's see if I can beat him. Oh boy. It's gonna be a close one. Oh, and he just destroyed me. Okay, well, there you have it. Well, okay, something else I'd like to add is to make them different colors so we can recognize them, right? And this will also be useful to you because in order for me to do the colors, I need to add additional information to our file to keep track of what the color of the person was. So it should be fun. Alright, now, okay, let me see. So in our knit revars, I'm going to set the color. So in here, I'm going to set our image blend equal to make color. I'm going to do HSV because then I can control the hue. I make the hue random 255, 255, 255, and there we go. Unfamiliar with this color method, color function? Great, I have a tutorial about that. Quick tips. Hex colors. I just released it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so you can check that out if you wish to learn about that. Alright, and then another thing I like to add is that when you call random in the beginning of the game, it will usually give you the same thing. Not really random. It's weird because even though the random value is reading from the same list each time you play the game, so it's not going to give you a random value on each. It's not going to be different each time, it's going to be the same. So in order to overcome that, we're going to call the function randomize. Tell them, hey, I don't want you to start from the same random number each time. Okay, so now it's going to be random color. And when we finish the game, we want to record that random color. The color is now associated with us. So when we write it, before we write all of the actions, we're going to write color value. So I'm going to grab the hue, and so our hue is going to be equal to color get hue, and it's going to be image blend. It's going to be the color that we want to grab the hue from. And then we want to write the hue to our file. So I'm going to do file, text, write. And we have 2 write options. We can either do a real or a string. And I'm going to do a real because it's a number that we're writing. And we're going to write to file, and the value we're going to be writing to the file is hue. And additionally, we want to also write a new line. So that way it will be be on its own line, and the files don't want to do that for. Okay, that's all for the writing. Now we want to, when we're reading from the file, we want to read that as well. So get color. Okay, so in here we're going to find the hue, and it's going to be equal to file text read real. So we're going to get the first number that's there, which will be the hue, and it's going to be file, and that's it. And then of course we want to read in the line, so that way we will be on a brand new line. So file text read ln, read line. What is it? File text read ln, read ln. There we go. File, and then we're going to set our image blend accordingly. Color of our guy, and it's going to be equal to make color HSV. The hue will be whatever we just found. The saturation will be 255, and the value will be 255 as well. Whew, okay, that should give us the random color, and I believe that we are done. Dare I say it? Who would you like to race against? Nobody. Alright. And look. I am green. Oh, there's 2 people that are green. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Why didn't he delete himself? It was an empty string. Anyway, I'm going to restart. My name is Arn Peter, the one and only. Who'd like racing against? I like racing against Arn Peter. Alright, I'm green by racing against another green. We're slightly different shades though. Okay, so that was the previous guy. Did we just randomly end up with very similar colors? Okay, well I beat you still, Mr. Arn Peter. And I am Arn Peter again. This is my new record, I suppose. I'd like to race against Arn Peter. Okay, now I'm blue and okay, there we go. Previous Arn Peter was green. What's he doing? Oh, okay. He's stealing all of my orbs. Ugh. All right, there we go. Okay. The other thing is, I put in an empty string. So it should have exit out. It should have destroyed the ghost. If you look in our files, it's making it empty.txt. So we got to do something about that because the way I set up my logic, I want it to destroy itself if it's empty. So file name equals empty, or yada yada yada. Yeah, that's weird. You know what? It's not file name, it should be user input, because the file name ended up being .txt. That's what I want. Alright, so I think we should only need to test it one final time, and that should be about it. I'd like to mention real quick, so this tutorial I think is going to be like over an hour long, so I imagine most people who watched it have already haven't made it this far. I'm actually kind of curious how many of you made it this far. So to those of you who've made it this far, why don't you leave a comment saying, now I could be like Meat Boy and watch myself die over and over again. So yeah, I would really appreciate that. And to people who are still watching, I am really appreciative that you guys are still here. I think it's cool that you stayed with me this whole thing, and yeah, so it's really cool that you're still here. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the final test. So I would like to race against nobody, and you give me nobody. Brilliant. Okay, these colors are oddly repetitive considering it was randomized. That's kind of annoying. Alright, got 6 seconds. Nobody. Alright, cool. Well, what are you gonna do? Alright, so, you know what? This is such a good game. I need to show it to somebody. Let me find a volunteer. Alright guys, I found a volunteer. This is Charles. He's going to play the game and see what he thinks. So first off, the way it works is you're gonna be timed, and you do the platform where you move around with the arrow keys, and the goal is to get to the right side as fast as possible. There are orbs. Once you get an orb, you can hit space to dash and speed up. So when you're ready, press OK, and
do I put it in the name?
No, not yet.
Can I put it in the name?
No. I guess, is it window not selected? The window's not selected, is it? Okay, now you can do it. Alright, go.
What is this?
We'll find out later.
Where'd I go?
Oh, you ran off the edge. I probably should. Okay, you broke it. Congratulations. We'll try it again. Okay.
Oh, it's a ghost.
Yeah, it's a ghost. That was you.
Oh. Double jump.
Yeah, you can double jump. And when you get the orbs, you can hit space to use them.
You're supposed to get orbs, not dodge them.
Yeah, you're supposed to get them, not dodge them. Alright, 18 seconds. Let me see if I can beat you.
No, let me try. Okay.
Okay, that's okay. You can. Well, so I just need you, Charles, and now we're gonna race against Charles. So let's see if you can beat yourself. But I think space, you can use the orbs. Nice. All right, now can I try to beat you now? All right, so that was Charles again, or we'll say Charles 2, and I'll race against Charles 2. All right, so you're blue, and now I'm racing against you. You're blue. Oh jeez. Okay. You won. That was me, Aaron Peter. You want to race against Aaron Peter?
Yes.
Okay, try again. My turn. That'll work. Alright, thank you for playing it. What did you think?
Let me try again.
Try again? Let's see. So this is Charles. And race against you? Yourself?
Yeah, sure. Doesn't matter.
I grabbed the original Charles one that went off that stage. Oh, that's an issue.
No, that was me.
Do you just do that?
As you can tell, the view did not follow the other one. So, I'm trying to fly to the finish line by going left.
Well, you need to collect the orbs first.
Oh, you're forced to go right.
And it only dashes right. Yep.
So it does store how many orbs you...
Yeah, it's not very easy to see, but you can, if you grab one, it'll show up on you, on top of you. See that?
Oh, yeah.
I need to change the color of that properly. Jukes.
What is this guy doing?
I think that was, maybe I closed the window, I don't know.
Am I even collecting anymore?
Yeah, you are.
Like, does it add up to another one?
Yep, no you don't.
That sudden stop, though.
Sudden stop. Yeah, there isn't, this world does not believe in inertia.
Hmm.
Right.
Interesting.
Thanks. Yep.
I probably wasn't in the camera, though.
Doesn't matter.
It was like to the side.
It doesn't matter too much.
Okay.
Alright, thank you for hearing me.
Alright, that is all for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I think it's really cool that you stayed with me throughout the whole thing. I really hope you learned something. I hope you find this useful. If you decide to use this in one of your projects, please let me know. I'm always curious to see how my tutorials are being used in other people's projects. Other people's projects. So yeah, let me know if you do use it. And other than that, yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you next time in another one of my tutorials. So I'll catch you guys later.